All right, we got to talk about something interesting today. In my last set of videos, I think I mentioned that I played on PC, and I think some people read it differently. Somebody put out a comment there making fun of PC Master Race and, maybe wanting to one up me or whatever, and they ran on a very silly tangent trying to deflect from the argument at hand. They got checked real quick. However, somebody else, put out this comment and said, playing on PC is a place of privilege, and they made it seem like I was touting that I play on PC. But for someone to categorize a PC gamer as somebody that's in a position of privilege, to me, I think is actually something that has been born of a misconception that you hear from the internet. I've actually heard a console fanboy talking head say, I don't have $3,000 to build a gaming PC or buy a gaming PC, so I'd rather just play on my console. And a lot of people watch that content and they believe statements like that. I would actually mention the name, but you can basically guess any name and you'll probably get it at some point of this person who mentioned that. Now, what I wanted to do in this video is I wanted to go ahead and actually dispel that notion. Because you know why, right? It's these same console fanboy talking heads that have made fun of PC gamers as being poor and broke. Remember, they looked at the Steam charts, the Steam hardware survey, and they laughed and said, they're all using a 2060. They're all using a 1080 Ti. They're all using a 3060, and that's not even as good as a PlayStation 5. Y'all remember that? Do we remember this? Okay. Now that we remember this, and if we didn't remember that, I've actually jogged the memory, and if you maybe didn't even know that I've actually told you, let's actually look at the data and see that it's actually much more, in a sense, of a big disparity than what they even think they're clowning on. So, when you look very carefully, you'll realize that now the video card, percentage of users in terms of the RTX 3060 is about 6%. If we click that description and basically break it open even more, we'll realize that now even less and less are using, say, things like the 4090. That's just like 1% of the PC gamers that are actually playing games out there. And in terms of the most, you see that the RTX 3060 is the highest. The 1650 is following. The 3060 Ti is on top, and then the 2060, and then whatever high-end GPU or maybe even old-school GPU you may want to put in there. So this is not a position of privilege for the majority of PC gamers. So again, I think they used this data and mocked it, right? But in reality, at the same time, want to turn around and say, I don't have $1,000 to buy, or I don't have $2,000 to buy or build a gaming PC. You see, we can't find logic anywhere when we're talking about these folk on the internet. They've polluted the conversation. I think I'm now at the point where I'm ready. I'm ready. We're going to take these clowns on, and we're going to bear their arguments naked, and we're going to basically mock the arguments. I'm not going to mock them. I will mock their arguments, though, because their arguments are bad for the conversation. And I'm not going to mention their names. However, if you are actually dialed in, you're here on YouTube, you probably know who these folk are. So, to the person that actually thinks that being a PC gamer is a place of privilege, I say to you that even those people who may have had you have that perception, they can't even logically follow their own claims that they actually make. Now, let's look at the data and let's try to put some objectivity. Let's leave the clowns outside for now, okay? So number one, let's look at things like the operating system. 50% is still chilling on Windows 10, which probably means many of them maybe bought those Windows 10 keys from a while ago and don't want to move to Windows 11, or at some point don't want to basically go ahead and upgrade or whatever and want to just keep enjoying Windows 10. So that's a mix. There are, old school geeks that would love to just stick with Windows 10 because they have a lot of custom options on there. So you can't really make too much out of the operating system because that's based on different needs and different desires. In the 47%, you have people that the highest is 47% using 16 gigs of RAM. And then the second highest is actually somewhere around 32 gigs of RAM. So most of these PC gamers cannot even afford, more, say less than half are using 16 gigs of RAM. And then another way less than, half are using 32 gigs. There is no privilege here. What this shows is people that are basically scrapping, like they're living in the Star Wars era, scrapping and tearing down, parts of the Empire's ships and building themselves some really cool stuff to be able to play their video games. There is no privilege here. This is people basically engaging in the market, the used market, and trying to come up with solutions to enjoy gaming. Another metric that I think is interesting for anybody to look at is the primary display resolution. This also tells you that a lot of these folk are using basically 1080p as their maximum resolution. 58.08% of these gamers. In fact, 0.35 was the drop in terms of the change from last year, meaning barely any of them actually upgraded to more advanced display systems. It's crazy because I find myself, and I don't fill this survey out, but I find myself in this category quite often because right now I'm rocking one of my PCs that I use for production. It's actually a decently built PC, but I'm using 1080p. The PC can run 4K if I wanted to, but I'm not giving anybody money for 4K. I already bought one 4K monitor. That's my first and last one. I don't care about bottlenecks. Get out of here. But hey, some console players actually have OLED TVs. I can't give a company OLED money. Some console gamers have 4K TVs. A 4K TV, for the most part, can run you anywhere from, a few hundred, if you're lucky, depending on the resolution, to about $500. And some console gamers actually own those display units. In my case, I still have a 1080 TV. In fact, I've had the same TV in my house. It's a 42-inch TV since about 2016. I bought it as a display model from Walmart. So those funds that I didn't use to buy an extravagant TV can be easily routed to build me a decent PC. It's a matter of sacrifices. There is no privilege here. You just choose what it is that is important to you and you go with it. And so this basically starts to tell you a lot of these PC gamers. If you look at the physical CPUs, a 6-core CPU. These are some of the really affordable CPUs that you can find out there. They make up the majority, and about 33% of gamers are using them. Second only to the quad-core CPUs, or at least, the 8-core CPUs at 21%, which thankfully AMD got into the business, and then the quad-core, the 4 cores. These are $50 on used market, $60, $70, $80, $90, CPUs. These are not your $300-$400 CPUs. As you continue to go down and you look at the cores, you start to see that almost no one is using the Threadrippers and all of those other CPUs. By the time you get here, no one in gaming is. This is privilege right here, guys. If you want to know privilege, for those of you who look at this data and you laugh and say my PS5 is better, well, here, all of this is privilege. If you're using these amounts in terms of cores and stuff, you're in privileged territory. When majority of the PC gamers are actually using things that are affordable for them. So this is not a matter of privilege. Don't let these people lie to you and tell you that, it's going to cost you about $1,000 to build a PC to play your video games. That's not true. Let me even tell you what's even funny is when you look at the requirements of the PS5 games that are actually on PC, when you go on Steam and look at them, you'll realize that these people they're actually worse than they make themselves to be. Because these games that PlayStation makes and brings to you, they will basically scale them down to the most available PC hardware specs that's available out there. Have you seen the PC specs for a game like Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West? Have you seen what the PC specs are for it? Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Let's look at the PC specs for Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, since these people continue to tout that, your PlayStation is better and such, let's take a look. Here you go. Look at what's their name? Nixes are doing. 16 gigs of RAM. They're targeting 16 gigs of RAM. Why are they targeting 16 gigs of RAM? Simply because they know that majority of PC gamers have access to 16 gigs of RAM. You just saw it on the database, right? They're looking at a Core i3 8100 or a Ryzen 3 1300X, which is basically a 6-core CPU. They know a good number have 6-core and 8 cores. And then they look at the RTX 3060 for the recommended, or the 1650, which is basically the second most used GPU. This is a PlayStation game. It's targeting PC gamers. It doesn't need for you to have equivalent hardware to the PS5. It just needs you to have enough hardware to be able to run the game. We can click on Ghost of Tsushima. This is a PS4 game, by the way. Many people weren't even thinking about this stuff. All these PCs that are here, they can beat the PS4. That's all they needed to do. Get a game out that could just beat the PS4. The GTX 960. Bro, I sold my 960 like 5 years ago. That's what they're actually recommending to play this. The RTX 2060 and the 5600 XT. This is stuff that you can buy on the used market very cheap. So where's the privilege? Where's the privilege? I think we've entertained ignorance or feigned ignorance too much in the console war nonsense conversation that it's actually leaked its way even into PC, which is known for analytics and data and metrics and all of this stuff, that now there has to be cleanup being done. It's very sad. Don't let anybody tell you that you need $1,000 PC. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a big lie. That's a massive lie. Don't buy it. Don't buy it from these people. Just look at what the evidence is showing you right in front of you, and you will see that these people have no clue what they're talking about. Ignore them to irrelevance is what you need to do, and use your eyes. You don't need to listen to the Video Game Fight School channel. The information is out here for you. Go look it up yourselves. Thanks for watching. Peace out.